Good like a track there called Dust Settles here in Kiwi. It's 12 minutes past 8 now.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
There's Russell Brown at publicaddress.net, also the Media 7 show on TVNZ7, joining us as he does every Wednesday morning on the show. Good morning, Russell.
Good morning.
Last night you were watching Māori TV and the very controversial, well, it has become controversial because of the Chinese government has made it controversial, a documentary on there. Now, I haven't been following this too closely and I didn't watch it last night. Tell us about this and why it was so controversial and what actually happened.
The documentary is called 10 Conditions of Love, and it follows the story of the Uyghur people of that region in western China, who are, well, they're now an ethnic minority. They didn't used to be. They're one of their leaders, Rebia Kadir, who was a businesswoman who then became an independence crusader and was put in jail for her troubles. It's a fascinating documentary. It's pretty clear which way it's advocating.
Yeah.
It's an enormously sympathetic documentary and occasionally a little bit cloying in that respect. But it's a really good look at the way that the Chinese government over decades has dealt with what it perceives as the threat of ethnic minorities, which it believes will weaken the nation state. It was worth watching. I seem to be not as upset as a great many other people that Maori Television said to the Chinese embassy here, okay, we'll run your documentary afterwards.
Well, it seemed like a bit of a concession, didn't it?
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I suppose it's because I'm from that kind of internet world where you do give people tit for tat, and it was the Chinese one afterwards was obviously going to stand or fall on what it said, and it kind of showed everything that's wrong with state media attempting to make so-called documentaries, because it wasn't actually as if they didn't have material there, because the riots last July, where the really bad things happened there. Obviously the Uyghur people have been treated dreadfully over decades, but what happened then, where innocent Han Chinese were beaten to death in the streets in some cases, the Chinese government appeared to have tons and tons and tons of surveillance camera pictures of that, but I had to stop watching it. It was unwatchable because there was no context, no nothing. They seemed to think it was enough just to show, I think I got through about 10 minutes of it, of people being beaten to death in the streets. And I thought, well, okay, I don't think I need to see this anymore.
You see, therefore, it probably wasn't a documentary, it really was propaganda.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and the funny thing is there was a documentary in there because there was a story. Even from the Chinese government side, there was actually a story. They just completely failed to tell it properly. The irony, of course, of the Chinese embassy making an issue of this is that was the reason I watched it. That's probably the reason most of the people who saw it last night watched it, because it had been in the news. Yeah.
Well, so ultimately, they're the ones who highlighted it. And
it just would have been another night on Maori Television had this, had they not protested to the extent that it became the news itself.
Yeah, but they do this, I suppose. But I mean, okay, so in saying that it wasn't really a documentary that was screened after the one that Māori TV wanted to screen, if it was propaganda, surely they shouldn't have been screening it.
Well, it depends on what you mean by propaganda. I mean, it was clearly, if you know what what you're going to get from Chinese state media, and it will be a certain point of view. But it had documentary content in it, and again, it was useful to get some idea of what happened last year. Although it got almost pornographic by the time I switched off. It was okay. I know people were beaten to death. Yeah. Now I know that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that the original documentary was going to tell you. because that was a work of advocacy as well, and I'm sure the Chinese government considers that propaganda. But certainly one made its case a hell of a lot better than the other.
Okay, let's talk about an issue back at home now, the gang patches and the circus that happened in Wanganui yesterday.
Yeah. It strikes me that the great achievement of Michael Law's, bylaw is to have conferred authentic victim status on people who probably don't deserve it. Because I thought under the direction of Dennis O'Reilly, the gangs handled that in quite an amusing way yesterday. Okay, our logos are specifically banned in the bylaw, so we'll wear slightly different logos. And our colours are banned, we'll wear police blue. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And even hearing the senior cop down there interviewed on the radio last night, I thought he sounded mildly amused.
He was mildly amused, and he said, and this totally sheds light on the whole thing. Really, he said that the law was there to give comfort to people.
Yeah,
but it doesn't actually do anything practically.
No, and he also said that it would dissuade young people from becoming gang members. I rather think it would do the opposite.
Well, because if something is seen as more rebellious,
yes,
then young people will be drawn to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that leads you down a dangerous road, because we should not romanticise what these gangs do. They're both the nationally based ones and these local provincial gangs. They're not nice people.
Although the Black Power representative seems to be awfully nice.
Oh, Dennis O'Reilly, I've got some time for him actually, and I think he has made positive changes within that organisation. But I suspect women still get treated pretty badly.
Right.
But it's not just Black Power. They've got, and I see Timaru have popped up this morning saying we want to do the same thing. And the thing that these provincial centres have in common is the white trash gangs. Who, I can't remember the name of the one in New Plymouth, but in Timaru it's the Road Knights, and they have been terrorising people for decades. Yeah.
Do you think the people of Wanganui, their expectation is that their lives are going to change because of this?
I don't know what they think. I don't know. Yeah, Laws is such a demagogue that down there that
extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Yeah. I had to laugh that he called John Key a petty fascist this week. Which is slightly ironic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's another chance for Michael Laws to strut around and look good. I just don't think it's actually going to change that much.
Okay. Finally, you had a wee go at installing Snow Leopard on your Macintosh on the weekend.
Yeah, this is the new Mac OS. It's interesting because they actually launched it with, how usually you launch software products with a bullet point list of the features?
Yeah.
They launched it, they previewed it at the last developer conference with a big slide saying 0 new features, which isn't quite true.
Right.
But most of what's happened there has gone on under the hood. And some of it, there's a site called Ars Technica, ARS Technica, which has just published its 23-page review, and it is really interesting what they've done. They've done an enormous amount under the hood, and it seems to be Apple's preparation for the next big leap, because sooner or later, either at the end of this year or early next year, Apple will release what people are calling the iPad. Whether that'll be the name, I don't know. But basically, like a big iPhone, with the same sort of multi-touch gesture interface, and a few other things as well.
It's still a rumour at this stage, isn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt that it's going to happen.
Okay.
It's just a matter of when.
Right.
They've made prototypes in various sizes, and so that's going to be really interesting when that happens, because that could well change things. The way that the iPhone seems to have for mobile phones. So, I'm an Apple fanboy, so I love this process of the rumours build, and then, it happened. Although it didn't quite happen the way I thought it was, and then there was one more thing. I actually went to Macworld New York in the late 90s, the one where they introduced the iBook, the original iBook,
Yep.
and also Airport, which was the first Wi-Fi implementation in a consumer computer, built in. And, got the whole Steve Jobs pitch, and it was great.
You loved it, didn't you?
Yep.
Superstar on stage.
Exactly. No, I got to my
Yeah.
feet and applauded, because he's got the real thing of the showman, and of course he's back now after sort of being extremely unclear about what his health problems were.
Yeah.
After having had pancreatic cancer, and said, I've got a nutritional problem. Turned out that his liver was poked and he's had a liver transplant. But he's back now.
He's back.
And working on this new tablet thing, making everyone's life a misery, apparently. But may well turn up at the September 9th event, which is new iPods and probably iTunes 9, which will belatedly have social networking features in it.
All right, well, we'll see. Thanks very much, Russell.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Russell Brown at